Namo Buddhaya. As humans, we all know that we make mistakes in our life. Mistakes are a common part of all of our lives. But do you know what most unsuccessful people do when they make mistakes? They point their mistakes to the outer world, saying that this mistake was happened because of that person, because of that thing, and because of this outer world. They do not admit their fault. Do you know what most successful people do when they make mistakes? They admit their mistakes and they move on. Remember, if you admit your mistakes, if you accept your mistakes and you start to move on, you will start to grow. You will start to develop your qualities. That is why Supreme Buddha said, this purity and impurity entirely depends on you. You are the author of your life story. That is why Supreme Buddha said, by one's own misdeeds and evil deeds, one becomes impure. By one's own wholesome deeds, he will become pure. Purity and impurity entirely depends on oneself. No one can purify another. So that means the purity and impurity entirely depends on you. If you do mistakes, if you do misdeeds, if you do evil things, those results of those mistakes is yours. If you do a wholesome thing, if you choose to do good, those good consequences of those actions also yours. So what you have to do is, you should always choose to do good things in your life. So how to choose always to do the good things? Remember, Supreme Buddha said, when a thought appears inside your mind, you need to consider whether this thought is good or bad, whether this thought is helpful for me and to the others, or whether this thought is going to distract my inner peace and the inner peace of others. If it is a good thought, if it is going to help you and to the others, you need to make it to an action. You need to do it again and again. And if it is an evil thought, you need to stop doing it. You need to avoid that evil thought. That is how you choose the difference between the good and bad, and that is how you choose to do always the good things. I know choosing to do always the good things is very hard. But remember, doing hard things makes our life easy tomorrow. Because all the good things, all the good achievements, all the wholesome things in this world are hard. We need to admit that. So do what is hard, do what is good, always choose to do good, and one day you can be happy about your life. Namo Buddhaya, Theruvan Saranai. Namo Buddhaya. In life, we have to deal with different kinds of people. So it is the nature of a person or a human is to make mistakes. Every living being makes mistakes. That is the nature of this life. That is the nature of our mind. Because our mind is full of hatred and delusion and our craving. So when these defilements get filled inside our minds, it is the normal nature to make mistakes. So sometimes when we are working in a company, or when you are working in a company, if you are a leader, sometimes the people who work under your supervision may make mistakes. So most of the time, people, use anger, and they use resentment, hatred, and evil words to explain something about a mistake to a person. That is the normal human nature. Remember, when you use the words of anger, when you use the evil words, when you talk in anger, you cannot explain that certain thing to that certain person, because no one likes to hear angry words from anyone. No one likes for another person to make them shy or embarrass them in front of others. But most of us embarrass people in front of others. Most of us talk the words of anger to explain the certain things when the people make mistakes. But our great teacher, Supreme Buddha, explained to us that if you need to accuse someone, if you need to explain about a mistake that has done by another person to that person, there's a way to do that. There's a correct way to do that. So when you explain that certain thing to that person about that mistake, you need to have 5 things in your speech. Supreme Buddha said, the first one is, the speak must be timely. You should speak in the correct time. So what is the correct time? Never speak to a person, never explain about a mistake to a person when he is in anger. Because when people become angry, they shut their ears. They don't like to hear about the things that others say. So you need to explain about a mistake to that certain person when he is cool. So if you need to complain to someone, if you need to explain something to someone, talk with him privately. Bring him to a private place, maybe your cabin, maybe to a private place, and talk with him about that. That is the first thing. It should be timely spoken. The second one, Supreme Buddha said that speak must be a real one. That means you need to explain about a mistake that really have done by him. Sometimes we may misunderstand about the situations, from the miscommunications, and we complain to wrong people, the people who hasn't done anything wrong. So when you speak like that, you damage to that person's trust, right? So you need to complain from a mistake that has really happened, from the truthfulness. That is the second point. And Supreme Buddha said, you need to speak gentle words. That is the third one. You need to speak the words of gentleness. So how to do that? First of all, if you need to complain to a person, first of all, you need to praise him. So suppose your colleague or a worker who works under you has done some mistake. So how to do that? First of all, you need to give a value to his occupation, the work that he's doing for you. So when you're doing that, his mind becomes happy and he opens his ears to listen to you. That is the first part. Then go for the complaint. Then explain that this mistake has happened from you. Ask, why did you do that? What was the problem? Right? What was the problem to do that? Then you can complain about that. And again, give a value to his life. Say that, give a praise to him. Say that you are doing well, but you have done something wrong, so you should not do this again and again. Then they will always listen to your explanations. So that is the thing. You have to speak gently, with kindness. And also Supreme Buddha said, you need to speak, you need to explain about that mistake with the goodwill, with the mind of explaining to that person and making his life better. You need to give that feeling to him. You need to give that feeling that he's trying to explain me something to make my life better. When he feels that, he always listens to you. So that is the fourth one. You need to look for the betterment of that person. And finally, Supreme Buddha said, you need to speak friendly words. You need to give that feeling of friendliness to that person. When you give that feeling to that person, he will reveal all the secrets inside him because he feels comfortable with you, and he will always try to listen to your advice. So that is how we deal with the people who make mistakes. But never be angry in front of the people who has done something wrong, because we all make mistakes. We all are humans. We all are in the same nature. So what we have to do, forgive them, explain them about the mistake kindly, never hurt their feelings. And if you do this, you will find so many people around you who are praising you and who are loving you. Make your life better with kindness. Namo Buddhaya. First of all, we all have to know that we all are humans and we make mistakes. We all make mistakes, right? You, I, we all are the people who are making mistakes. For sometimes, when we are dealing with people, when we live with people around us, we will see that the people around us are making mistakes. They do wrong things. Sometimes they may be the people who love you most. So in such times, we have to correct them. We have to show the correct path and we have to put them into the correct way. But when we do that, we do it in an unsuccessful way. Most of the time, we use anger, resentment, we use punishments to correct people. Remember, when you use anger, when you use the punishments, when you use the resentment to show the correct path to people, they will never correct their mistakes, right? Because when someone's mind is in anger, right, he cannot understand what is good and what is bad, what should be done and what should not be done. So there is a way, and there is a proper way to correct a mistake of a person. So have to do that. Now this way was taught by our great Arahant Sariputta. Our great Arahant Sariputta says that you need to establish 5 things inside your mind before reproving someone or before correcting a mistake that has done by a person. So what are these 5 things? Number 1, remember, you need to speak at the proper time. That means you need to show the mistake of that person at the proper time. So what is the proper time to show a mistake to a person? Remember, never show a mistake to a person when that person is in anger. Because when your mind is in anger, you cannot know what is good and what is bad and what should not be done and what should be done. Therefore, you need to wait until that person cools down, right? Don't show the mistakes to people when they are in anger. They will never correct their mistakes, right? That is the first step. And the second step, never show mistakes to people in public, right? When that person is surrounded by some other people, never talk about their mistakes. Why? Because in these days, people have a bigger personality, right? People show a big image to the society, right? You have a Facebook account, you have an Instagram account, you are on social media, and you show something to this society, and you think that you are a person and you are like a kind of a person in this society. So when you show a mistake of that person in front of others, right? When you complain to that person in front of people, remember, you are not only damaging his mind, you're damaging his personality. Remember, damaging to one's personality is one of the most
dangerous and most worst thing that a human can undergo. Therefore, never show the mistakes to people in front of others. If you want to show a mistake to a person, talk to them privately, right? Bring him under a shade or maybe a calm and quiet place and talk to them, right? They will like to hear that, right? So never show the mistakes to people in front of others. So that is the proper time. And the second thing, Arahant Sariputta said, you need to speak truthfully, right? That means you need to complain to the person that has done the mistake exactly, not to other people. Because sometimes, because of the misunderstandings, because of miscommunications, we complain to the people who have not done any mistake, right? We make false accusations. When someone is going through a false accusation, it is very hard for that person. Remember. Therefore, before complaining to someone, before showing a mistake to a person, find that exactly has this person done this mistake or not. Okay? So you need to be truthful. You need to find whether this person has done this mistake or not. Do not make false accusations. That is the second one. Number 3, Arahant Sariputta said, you need to speak gentle words. Never use harsh and rude words to explain the things to people, to explain the mistakes to people, right? When you use the hard and rude words like the words of anger, right, they will shut their ears, they will shut their eyes. They don't like to hear the rude words. In case no one likes to hear rude words, right? Therefore, if you need to explain a mistake that has done by someone else, then speak kind and gentle words, right? Speak heartwarming words. Then they will start to hear that, because we have a higher sensitivity to love and kindness. Therefore, use the words of love and kindness to explain the mistakes to people. Then they will correct their mistakes. And number 4, Arahant Sariputta said, you need to speak in a beneficial way. Remember that. That means when you are speaking and when you are explaining that mistake to that person, you need to give that feeling that this person, the reason why this person is explaining this mistake to me is because he loves me, right? He wishes the development of me. That is why he's showing this mistake to me. You need to give that feeling to that person. So how to give that? So there's a way to show a mistake to a person. There's a way to complain about a mistake to a person. It's like this. First of all, you need to talk to that person privately. And first of all, in the first step, what you have to do is you need to give a value to that person. Let's say, for an example, one of your co-workers made a mistake. Now you have to show that mistake. So first of all, you need to give a value to his profession. You need to give a value to what he's doing in a company, right? First of all, you need to say, you are doing a great job in this company. You have a great value. You give a great value to this company, right? When you're praising that person, he will open their eyes and ears. And then in the second step, you need to show the mistake, but you have done this mistake, right? You're doing this mistake. Because of doing this mistake, because you're doing this mistake, there is a huge disadvantage for the company as well as for you. You have to explain like that. Then after that, after explaining the mistake to them, as the third step, again, you need to give a value to his profession, or you need to give a value to his life, right? You are doing a great job, so do not do this mistake again. You need to correct this. If you explain the mistake in that way, remember, everyone who you need to show the mistakes will correct their mistakes, right? And in the final thing, right, Arahant Sariputta said, you need to speak with a heart of loving kindness, right? Not while harboring the hatred thoughts. Because so many people show the mistakes to other people, right? To maybe to your children, maybe to your husband or wife or colleagues or co-workers, whoever it is. You get the anger to your mind and then you start to speak, right? Never do that. You need to be kind to the people. You need to have the compassion inside you. With that, you can do a great job, right? You can heal others' hearts. And also, you can correct the mistakes of people successfully. So, you need to use your word wisely and properly, because your words can change the lives of people. Words are so powerful, it can make people, and also, in the same way, it can break people. Therefore, when you show the mistakes to people, you need to speak kindly, gently, and in the proper time with a mind of love and kindness. So try this out and see the difference of your life. Namo Buddhaya. Before learning how to stop a bad habit, first of all, we have to learn and find what is a habit and how a habit is formed in our life. Normally, habit is something that we do again and again throughout a long time, and after doing it through a long time, it will become automatic, right? After it becomes automatic, it does not require any effort to do, right? There are so many habits in our life, either good or bad. There are so many habits, right? So for an example, let's take early in the morning, you all get up and you go to your washroom and you take your toothbrush and put some toothpaste on it and you brush your teeth. Now, brushing your teeth is a habit. No one gets up in the morning and think, oh, I should brush my teeth today also. No one become sad or depressed of brushing teeth, right? Why is that? Because it has become a habit. Because from the little age, from the age that we were as babies, right, we brushed our teeth daily. And with the time, it became a habit. It became something that happens automatically. Normally, we get up early in the morning and we just go to the washroom and we brush our teeth. It does not require any effort, right? So, that is how a habit is formed. We do it for a long time and it becomes something that is very easy and well known, and it does not require any effort. So, there are good habits in our life as well as the evil habits. Now, our focus and our main target should be to reduce these evil habits. So, what are the evil habits that we have? Normally, the main evil habit that we have is we become angry with people all the time, don't we? We become angry. We get angry with people who are in our families, who are in our workplace, right? Why that happened? Did you think why is that happening? Because we have practiced this anger for a long time.
and it has become a habit. Now, do you need any effort to be angry with anyone? Do you want to take any effort to be angry with any person? No, you don't. Why? It has become a habit, right? And there is another bad habit. It is the feeling jealousy of others. It does not require any energy. You don't want to think about it. It comes to your mind automatically. And the craving and the lust. When we talk about that, normally we have the habit of craving the things. And the lust has become a habit to our life. So that means we have practiced these evil thoughts throughout a long time, and it has become a habit. And that is how the evil habits are formed in our life. So how to break these habits? Well, there is only one way to do that. And that one way is to replace that evil habit from a good habit. Okay? That is the only way you can do that. Stop a bad habit. Instead of practicing that evil habit, in that time, you can practice another good habit. Suppose you get angry with a person, right? You are a person who gets angry all the time. You are a person who loses your temper all the time. So what you have to do, you have to understand about your habit. You have to understand about your situation, right? Now you have to think, I get angry all the time, right? The first step is to understand about your situation. Number 2, you have to think that this evil habit, this bad habit is not good for my life. It will never make any good for my peacefulness or my spirituality. The more you think about that, right, the more you think about the disadvantages of your evil habit, your mind always try to reject those thoughts. Because you are thinking about the disadvantages of those evil thoughts, right? Normally, when we see some disadvantages of a special thing or a person or whatever it is, normally we don't like to be with that, right? If you are going to the supermarket and when you're going to buy something, if you come across and if you see some disadvantages of buying that special thing, do you buy that? No, you don't. Right? Same as that, you have to think about the disadvantages of your evil habits. That is the second step. And then as the third step, you can bring out a good habit to practice instead of that evil habit. Suppose you get angry with people all the time. Okay? So what you have to do, instead of blaming others, right? Instead of blaming for the little mistakes of others, what you have to do, you have to practice to be silent, and you have to practice to spread love and kindness to them. And also you have to train your mind to forgive them, right? Sometimes we may get angry for little things, right? The fights and the troubles that they are going on in the family life or in the workplaces are for very little things we are fighting. Remember, if we cannot forgive the people around us, we will never live peacefully, right? If you don't have the habit of forgiving, you cannot live peacefully, because we cannot expect the people around us to always to do good things and the things that we like, right? They may do weird things, but if we cannot forgive and forget, right, you will always see the mistakes and the wrong things and the troubles that has done by the people around you. The more you see it, the more you will become distracted in your mind. So instead of developing that evil thought, you can develop a wholesome thought. It's like this. Now, there are two sides of our mind. There is the evil side and the wholesome side. Okay? Think these two sides as two animals. Okay? So one animal is very dangerous, right? And the other animal is very calm and quiet and serene. And it is very useful. So if you keep on feeding one animal, suppose you fed the dangerous animal, the more you feed that animal, the more that animal will be strong. And that animal, with the time, that animal will control that other, the wholesome animal. Right? The problem with us is we are feeding this dangerous animal. Right? Instead of feeding the dangerous or evil side of our mind, what you have to do is just feed the wholesome animal. Right? If you feed the wholesome side of your mind, what will happen? It will start to develop. Right? When it starts to develop, it can overcome and it can control the dangerous or evil thoughts of your mind without letting that evil thoughts to be appear inside your mind. So what you have to do, just feed, always do and say the things and think the thoughts that feeds the wholesome side of your mind. Then with the time, that habit, that evil habit will be broken, and you will find that you always have a good habit instead of evil thoughts and evil habits. And that is how you break the evil habits in your life. So stop feeding the evil thoughts in your mind. Instead, feed the wholesome thoughts and make your life a peaceful one. Namo Buddhaya, Theruvan Saranai. Namo Buddhaya. Today I'm going to share a wonderful story with you. Once in ancient India, our Mahabodhisattva, whom we called the Buddha to be, was born to a family of traders. He grew older and he became the leader for 500 caravan of traders. So they packed their food, water and rations to cross long deserts. So one day, while they were traveling to sell their goods to faraway cities, they came across to an edge of a desert. So in order to get to the city, they had to cross this desert. So this wise Mahabodhisattva, this young trader, decided that it is very harsh and it is very dangerous to travel this desert in the daytime because the sun was too hot and the sand was too hot, like burning charcoal. So they decided to travel in night and to rest in the daytime. So they arranged their carts in a circle in the daytime and they rest under the carts, under the shades. And they started crossing the desert in the night. After a couple of days later, the desert guides said that they have reached their destination and they are one night away to the city. So the traders was very happy and they ate everything that they had and they drank their water because they had to reduce their weights in the carts. So while traveling at the night, the desert guides lost their path. And after traveling a long circle, they returned back to the middle of the desert. Now when the sun rose in the next day, they realized that they had lost their way and they have come to the middle of the desert. Now they are in the middle of the desert and they have no water,
and they had no food to eat. So everyone was parched, everyone was tired, and everyone was suffering from thirst. So everyone gave up all of their hopes and they laid down on the hot sand, resigning their life to the fate. But this young trader, our Mahabodhisattva, thought, if I give up my hopes, everyone would die. If I give up my courage, everyone will be in danger. So I must find a solution to cross this desert, and I must find a way to find some water to these people. So while our Mahabodhisattva was walking here and there thinking of a solution, he saw a bunch of grass has grown on the desert. Then the Mahabodhisattva decided, if there is a bunch of grass, there must be a stream of water running beneath this bunch of grass. Then he called to everyone and said, dig under this bunch of grass and you will find water. Everyone was happy and they took their spades and mammoties and they started digging a hole in that place. After hours and hours of digging, they came to a surface of a stone. Everyone was tired. Everyone was crying because they could not break the stone. They could not find any sign of water. Then everyone laid down around the hole and they started crying and started yelling at the leader. But our Mahabodhisattva didn't give up. He searched for a person who has the courage to do something about this disaster. Then he called to a boy, and Mahabodhisattva said, son, if you give up, we all are in danger. Take this sledgehammer and start striking to the stone. There must be water beneath the surface of the stone. This boy was courageous enough to do that. He believed in the words of the tradesman and he took the sledgehammer, went down to the hole and he started striking hard to the stone. First strike, the stone didn't break. Second strike, it didn't break. Third strike, it did nothing. He summoned up every part of the strength, every single strength that was inside his body, and he struck hard to the stone surface. The stone surface broken. A huge gush of water cascaded from the stone, filling the hole within no time. Everyone was happy. Everyone drank water. Everyone fed their oxen. And they filled their vessels with water and they started traveling. They started crossing the desert again. And finally, they reached to the city happily. Dear children, dear devotees, sometimes when we try for our success, when we do the things that make our lives successful, it seems a bit harder. Sometimes you may feel that you should give up. Remember, you will fail only if you quit, if you give up. If you did not give up, one day you will achieve the successfulness in your life. Therefore, sometimes success may be one step away from our life. All we need to do is go for that, do that, take some risk and find your success in your life. Because doing these things, doing the things which makes our life better,
Doing the things which brings the happiness to our life is hard. So you have to remember that if you give up only, you will fail. Therefore, never give up. Always work for your success. Although it is hard, one day that success will make your life happy. So never give up being a good person, and never give up being successful in your life. Namo Buddhaya, Thiruvon Saranai. So first of all, I will tell you a wonderful story that tells us how Buddha dealt with a toxic person, right? So this is a famous and well-known story. One day, a man came to the Buddha and he started yelling and insulting, and he was cursing Buddha, right? So, do you know how Buddha faced that situation? He was smiling. He didn't make any reaction. Throughout that conversation and throughout that situation, he put on a smile, a positive smile on his face, and he was looking at that person who was yelling at him very kindly, right? So he was very kind to that person. Now, after some time, that person stopped yelling, right? Everything that he packed inside him was over. He was finished. Then our great teacher Supreme Buddha asked a wonderful question from him, right? Now it is totally different to the situation, right? It does not suit for the situation. Supreme Buddha asked, do you get visitors to your home? Does visitors visit to your home? Then that person was astonished and he was amazed. And he said, yes, I get so many visitors to my home. The Supreme Buddha kindly asked from that person, do you treat them with foods and drinks? Then that person said, yes, I am treating them. Then Supreme Buddha said, what if they did not accept what you have treated, what you have given? So, for whom those foods and drinks belongs to, if they did not accept those foods and drinks? Then that person laughed in front of the Buddha and he said, so if they did not accept my treat, then it belongs to me. I will eat them. Then our Supreme Buddha, with a great and wonderful, kind smile in his face, he said, same goes with this situation, man. You treated me with rude and harsh words. You treated me with anger. But I am a person who is not accepting anything that you have given to me. I will never accept those rude and harsh words that you treated me. Right? So if I do not accept anything that you have given, then everything that you gave to me belongs to you. Then you should eat it. Right? Then that person was amazed and his anger was cooled down. Then after, Supreme Buddha preached the Dhamma, his teachings to him. After that, he became a follower of our great teacher Supreme Buddha. Now see how positively and how successfully our great teacher Supreme Buddha dealt with that toxic person. Now if we were in that situation, what would be our reaction? Normally, when people yelling at us, we try to talk to them back. We try to prove them wrong, right? We try to control them with our rude and harsh words. Supreme Buddha said, if you treat with anger to the people who is treating you with anger. If you give the same thing, that means you are sharing their food and eating. Right? If you become angry, that means you are sharing their treats. Remember, whenever you are in such situations, whenever you face toxic people, whenever people around you are angry, what you have to do? The first thing that you have to do is put on a positive smile to your face. Never show your sad or angry face to them. If you show that, that means you are providing what they want. Because they are coming to you expecting to hurt you. If you show them that you have been hurt, then you are unsuccessful. You provide them what they wanted. So never show your angry or sad face to them. Put on a smile. Be a positive person. Be a bigger person than him. Because when one person becomes angry, right, he becomes mentally weak. Remember, mentally weak people express their anger easily. The reason why they are expressing their anger is because they don't have a strong mentality. So you need to be the bigger guy, right? To be the bigger guy, you have to be positive, you have to smile, and you have to be motivated with virtues and morals. Okay? Be the best version of yourself. Don't try to talk to them back. That is the first thing. And also, you have to listen to what they tell, what they speak. Right? Set apart and leave behind the person. Don't care about the person. Care about what they say. Right? Sometimes they may be yelling at you because of a mistake that they think that you have done, but in reality, sometimes you haven't done it. So what you have to do? You have to listen to that and understand what they say. Right? Give a big attention to what they say. Right? So if they complain you about a mistake or something else, then you have to think, is that mistake prevails in my life? Right? Is that mistake is inside my life? Have I done that mistake really? Right? If you have done some mistake and if that is the reason that they are yelling at you, then you have to correct your mistake. But never show the face of anger or sadness. Okay? Then you have to correct it. If you haven't done any mistake and still if they are complaining you, then don't try to prove them wrong. Because each and every time you try to prove them wrong, they may be understanding it in a wrong way. Because when our mind gets deluded or when our mind is covered by anger, normally an angry man shuts his eyes and ears and he opens his mouth. Right? He cannot see anything, he cannot listen to anything, he cannot hear anything. So what you have to do? Don't try to prove them wrong. Stay silent. Silence can give many answers to problems. Right? So if you need to prove them wrong with your success. Not with your words. Right? That is how we do it. So you have to set apart the person and listen to what they say. If you have done a mistake, correct it. If you haven't done a mistake, leave it behind. Don't care about that. So the best practice that you can do to generate and to have this skill is to practice the mind of loving kindness. Right? If you love yourself, you will never like to make yourself angry. If you love yourself, then you will have the opportunity to
love others. And if you love others, you will never try to hurt those people with rude and angry words. So practice loving kindness, practice compassion, right? Love, compassion, care, these things can provide many answers to the problems that pop up in our life. So you always need to be kind. You always need to be humble. And also remember, being humble is not being weak. You need to be positive, right? You need to have a good skill to handle these situations. Now, this can be done by visualizing to yourself that how I'm going to face such a situation. If you can visualize that a situation like that now, and if you can imagine in your mind how I'm going to face it, right? If you can see that you are having a good smile on your face, and if you are listening to those people, and you are handling that situation very successfully, then that visualization will help you to deal in a real situation like that. So practice that, right? That is how we deal with toxic people. Never provide what they want. When they come to you, they need the anger from you. They need to hurt you. So don't provide that. If you did not provide it, you will handle it successfully. So I wish you all, may all of you have that wonderful skill to deal with the toxic people successfully. Namo Buddhaya, Thiruvon Saranai. Stressful and difficult situations are the situations that we all have faced in all of our lives. But many of us face these situations in an unsuccessful way. Under difficult circumstances, under stressful situations, we become depressed, sad, and anxious. So, how to remain calm and how to maintain your inner peace under these circumstances? So, first of all, we have to know and we have to learn and we have to observe what is the situation. Remember, there is a common nature in all the experiences and situations that we face in our life. What is this? What is that common nature? That is called the impermanence. Whatever we encounter and whatever we experience in our life, soon after that has been experienced, it becomes impermanent. Isn't that right? Yes, it is. Now imagine someone is complaining to you about a mistake that you have done or maybe you haven't done, right? So he's yelling at you, right? So in that moment, when the people complain and blame at us, we become depressed, we become sad. But what is the nature of that situation? What is the nature of those words, those rude words? Now soon after we hear them, they become impermanent, right? Soon after you hear them, they will no longer prevail in our life. They are gone. That means everything that we encounter in our life, experience in our life, they become impermanent. That is the nature. But the real problem is that our mind clings to those experiences, and there's a nature in our mind that it creates again and again those experiences inside. Now, for an example, as I mentioned before, when someone blames us, right? Now we know that soon after that we got the blame, the words are gone. They have become impermanent. But what our mind does, it creates those words again and again. We think those rude words again and again, and we become sad and depressed. But the real nature is those words are gone. They have become impermanent. Right? So that is the nature. understanding about the impermanence, understanding that these experiences and all the things that we face in our life are impermanent is very important to face or to be calm in a difficult situation. Because you know the nature. That is the first step. We need to understand that each and everything that we face in our life is impermanent. Right? Whether you face a terrible time, it will become impermanent. It will be changed. There will be a good day. Whether you face a good time, a happy time, a wonderful time, that will also become impermanent. That is the nature. So first of all, you need to understand about this. The world is impermanent. Our life is impermanent. Nothing is permanent in this world, not even your problems. First step. And the second step, whenever you are in a difficult situation, whenever you are in a terrible moment, you need to practice some practices or to do something to remain peaceful and maintain your peacefulness and think of a solution to solve this problem. So how to do that? Now, many of us, during the difficult situations, we become panicked. We freak out. So it is the best thing to do during a difficult situation is to do some practices to calm our mind. So what we can do to make our minds calm? The best thing that you can do to make your mind calm and peaceful is do some meditation. Right? Do a little bit of a meditation during that stressful situation. So how to do that? The easiest meditation that you can practice within a stressful situation is to contemplate on your breath. Now, breath is an amazing thing. It changes according to the situation. Isn't that right? So when we are in a terrible moment, right? When we are in a dangerous moment, what is the nature of our breathing pattern? It becomes fast and it becomes shorter. We take short and fast breathing patterns, right? So what is the nature of our breathing pattern? That when we go to sleep, what do we do normally? I think most of you have experienced this. When you go to bed and when you lie down, you take a deep breath in and let it go. That is a sign that your body shows that you are going to rest. So if you need to become peaceful and serene and tranquilized, you need to restructure your breath. So in a difficult and terrible and stressful situation, just take deep breaths in. You can do it. Breathe in deeply and let it go. And contemplate on the pattern of your breathing. Now you can do this, but this needs a little bit of a practice. Right? You cannot do it without a practice. First of all, you need to practice this. Now some people may question, now I cannot do this in a difficult situation. Yes, you cannot do it because you don't have that practice. First of all, you need to practice this contemplation and this practice where there is no stressful situations. Right? That is the thing. The nature of these practices is that if you do it whenever there is no problem, then it will help you to practice that way or the situation or that remedy during a stressful situation. There's a great saying that it says,
if you sweat during the times of peace, you will bleed less during the times of war. That means if you practice during the times of peaceful situations and where there is no stressful situations, it will help. That practice will help you to face the difficult situations. So, practice at least 5 minutes a day to contemplate on your breath. Right? You can feel the way that you are breathing. Right? It will help you to tranquilize your mind. Supreme Buddha said, Vitakku pachedaya anapana sati bhavetappa. If you need to stop the chattering mind, if you need to stop the thoughts that are popping up all the time that inside your mind, just practice the anapanasati, or which we call the breathing meditation. Just contemplate on the breathing meditation. When you contemplate your mind on this breathing pattern, right, you're focusing your mind to inhale and to the exhale. That means your mind jumps from one thought to another, but there is only two thoughts. Inhale and exhale. You're not thinking about anything else. Right? That means you reduced thousands and millions of thoughts to two thoughts. So that is a big thing. So if you do it as a practice, you will feel that your mind will become more and more peaceful and tranquilized. So whenever you face a difficult and stressful situation, try to take deep breaths, few deep breaths in and let them go. And it will make you feel better. Right? So if you need to face a difficult situation, if you need to face a stressful situation successfully, you have to be ready for that situation where there is no stress. So that is how you face the difficult situations without being distracted. And also, as an extra thing, you have to practice the love and kindness. And also, you have to practice the forgiveness. If you can practice these great qualities like compassion, love, and kindness, especially forgiveness, you can maintain your peacefulness. Because when you forgive people, as an example, when you forgive people, that means you are letting go of them. Right? The more you forgive, the more you will feel the peacefulness within. But forgiveness does not mean that you are going to fall into the same trap again and again for them. You forgive for yourself, and you know that person, and you can stay away from them in a positive way, and you can still be kind to them. Because kindness and forgiveness starts within your heart, and it will help you always. So practice these practices in the times where there are no stress and disturbing situations. And one day, when you master them, one day you can maintain your peacefulness within yourself without being distracted. Namo Buddhaya, Thiruvan Saranai.